Welcome to the Evolve Podcast, an open forum on personal growth and cultivating a positive mindset. I'm your host, Joe Fitzpatrick, and today we have Richard Widmark. Hi, Richard. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Pretty great. Thanks for being here. Richard is a friend of mine. We've known each other for about a year now. We met through the Richmond cycling community, and since then, Richard has grown as an incredible photographer, especially in the cycling community as well as in other aspects of life. And he documents the positivity that the Richmond cycling community has to offer. So I really wanted to get him on as a fellow photographer and to learn about what he does, how it gets him stoked and gets everyone else stoked on bikes, and how he expresses that form of creativity. So Richard, thanks for being here.
Absolutely, good to be here.
Yeah, so I gave a summary of your photography. How would you describe your photography?
I don't really have a good answer for that. Mm-hmm. It's something that's evolving that actually over the last couple of weeks I've been contemplating myself. I feel like it's more documentary style. Yeah. At least that's what it's evolving into. Mm-hmm. It's about capturing moments that aren't styled, that aren't set up.
Yeah, candid shots, that type of thing.
Yeah, candid, and trying to catch the emotion of the moment. Even in cycling photography, because that's kind of like where I started to get more involved back into my photography. I try to catch the moment on the riders' faces during a ride. I don't shoot like most sports photographers. I don't, as they say, spray and pray. I take, let's say Bryan Park crit races. Mm-hmm. I take no more than 400 photos most of the time, whereas like the couple other photographers there are 2,000 and 3,000.
In like what time frame?
Usually about a 2-hour time frame.
Okay.
Around 2.5 hours.
Okay. Yeah. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, I never shot film before. Mm-hmm. And I kind of treat it apparently like film. I mean, obviously you're not taking 400 shots on film.
Right.
But I treat it more of like shot to shot. And, sometimes the picture comes out blurry and sometimes it doesn't. That's the thing with, trying to just catch one shot at a time. Mm-hmm. I've done some spraying and praying. I don't know. It doesn't feel organic to me.
Yeah. And it's a lot more intentional, I feel like, too, since you're trying to pay attention to what you're actually capturing.
Yes.
And making it count.
Yeah, absolutely. Way more intentional. Yeah.
So how'd you get into photography in the first place? You said it was through cycling?
Well, that was my maybe 5th or 6th adventure back into photography. I was an adult, I do know that, and the very first camera I ever had was a T3i. I feel like that's everybody's, at least at my age. Yeah, Canon T3i. I feel like my age, everybody started on that camera for some reason. Mm-hmm. It was a great camera. I loved it. The photography didn't stick to me. It didn't feel good. And then all my equipment got stolen. So that, stopped that. And then
when was that?
I think it was 2016, 2017, around then. Yeah, it happens. Yeah. Unfortunately, my mistake, don't accidentally hit your trunk unlock button in your car before you run inside anywhere in Richmond.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And then I got back into it. My friend's wife had an old T1, T3, T1, yeah, whatever, the very first T series. Mm-hmm. So she gave me that because she upgraded. That also got stolen out of my car. No. Riverside Drive, I went down to 43rd Street. And I came back and my GoPro, my camera, everything was gone.
How many cameras have you had stolen?
Just those two.
Okay.
Yeah, those two. Yeah. Yeah, so it's been fun.
Yeah. You keep coming back to it.
I do. So after when the second time it happened to me, I had began really falling in love with photography again. So I decided I was going to go with a whole new system. And I started with Fuji X-T3 and kit lens. And then since then, I've like built up my kit, got a new H2 camera, some better glass. But like, I've fallen, like cycling photography specifically, getting back into that has just made me truly fall in love with photography again, not just sports,
right.
in all aspects. And Fuji as well. I mean, you know, they always say Fuji colors, you can't duplicate them, and you can. I mean, there's just something special that makes, you know, you want to take photos with a Fuji.
So your current camera is a digital Fuji?
Yeah, it's a Fuji H2 mirrorless.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you like it?
I love it. I had the X-T3, and that's like the older. It has all the dials on the top to make it feel like a film camera. Again, I never shot film. I never really liked that style. I just happened into a really good deal on that camera.
Yeah.
So when I saw the H2 come out with its huge sensor, and there was a little bit of gear acquisition syndrome with that camera for me, but it was more DSLR
Yeah.
style that I was used to. And I just love the feel of it. It feels like a bigger camera. I got, you know, bigger hands, so that helps as well.
Right.
And the image quality is tremendous. I mean, it's a 40 megapixel APS-C camera, which they don't have any other.
When you started off doing photography earlier on, were you doing cycling photography as well?
No. When I first started doing photography, I wasn't even riding a bike.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't start. I bought a bike in 2016, January 1st, 2016, because I had this never ridden a bike in my adult life, but I had this lofty goal of I want to ride across America. And at the time, I was 600 and around 60 pounds. And yeah, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. Did not touch the bike at all. None. I did test ride it.
Bought it, and then you just sat there for a while?
It sat in the shed until 2019, I think. 2019 or 2020. I can't remember. 2019, I believe. Yeah. Oh, you know, the last few years has been a blur, I think, to everybody. So one of those 2 years is when I rode it again, or rode it for the first time. And I remember getting on it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to ride a mile. And man, let me tell you something. That was difficult. Like I was living a very sedentary life.
Were you still 600 pounds at that point?
No, when I got on the bike, I believe I was around 500 at this point.
Okay, so you're already on your weight loss journey, well underway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic. We could spend a whole hour on that.
We'll get into that too.
Okay, yeah. I had made the goal in my mind when I hit 5, I was going to get on the bike, and that's exactly what I did.
Good.
And I rode a mile, and it blew me away how difficult just riding a mile was.
What kind of bike were you riding?
A Specialized Roll.
Okay. Is that a hybrid mountain bike?
I think it's a hybrid, like it's not a cruiser,
right,
but it's not a mountain bike.
Okay.
It doesn't have, it has a solid front fork, and you know it's more upright.
Right.
But it's more cooler than a cruiser.
I've seen it.
Yeah,
it is really cool.
Yeah. So I did that, and it felt amazing to like get off the bike, and like the inside of my thighs were killing me just from a mile. I was like, man, I haven't used these muscles in who knows how long. And then the next day I rode a mile. The next day I rode a mile and a half. And before you know it, I was riding 10 miles a day. Awesome. And that was like my initial goal I set, was to ride 10 miles every single day. Mm-hmm. And I did that. And then in 2020, I believe, I guess I should remember these dates. They're pretty big dates. I decided that I wanted to do the cap to cap.
Yeah.
One way.
Mm-hmm.
which was 51
50
point
miles,
something
50
miles. So I did that, and that was still to this day, the longest ride, due to some setbacks. I haven't ridden too much lately. But that was one of the most special bike rides of my life. I drove to Williamsburg and rode my bike back. A lot of emotional things happened on that bike ride. I think I learned a little bit more about myself. I also learned that you should probably eat when you decide to ride 50 miles when, totally didn't prepare. Had water bottles when I started. I don't need water right now. I'm good. Passed up the first stop they had. I was like, nah, I'm only 6 miles in. Well, the next one wasn't until mile 20, so by that time I was hurting.
Yeah. Thankfully, they've added on some stops on the trail, but you got to make those store stops count.
Yeah. Well, this was during the cap to cap, so they had the stops set up, but they were still. I was like, I don't need it. I just started. I'm good. Yeah. And then I had
trying to prove something to yourself. I get that too.
Yeah.
There's a bit of ego involved as well.
For sure.
I actually just did the cap to cap as well in May, and I did the Century.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I did the 50 miler back in 2021, and I was in a similar situation as you. I was like very underprepared. I didn't have the best nutrition. I didn't have enough water. Like I did in July, and it was so fucking hot.
Yeah.
And I was definitely dehydrated, and my legs were cramping up by the end.
Yeah.
But it was a good learning experience, and this year I was able to do the Century, and it was fully supported.
Yeah.
It was part of the cap to cap event, which made a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you don't have to spend any money at stores. Like
I still did just to like be prepared because I didn't want to like screw it up like last time. But you do have more peace of mind since there's like assistance along the trail and you don't have to go into any stores.
Yeah. Luckily, when I did mine, it was cooler. And there was a little mist in the air.
Yeah.
So that was great, except there was a headwind the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So you did the 50. What like emotional things came up for you that you talked about?
Well, when I started, everything was great. I felt really good. I can do this. I can do this. When I finally made my first stop, I had a little peanut butter jelly sandwich and a bag of nuts, and I was standing there, and my legs was like feeling different. Mm-hmm. So I knew from a previous ride I did 4 days before that, I rode 30 miles 4 days before that in preparation, that like I can't stay off the bike long, because if you stay off the bike, it's really hard to get back on.
Especially if your butt's already hurting.
Yeah. Well, luckily I don't have that problem. After I'm back riding for a little bit, I do wear bibs with pads as well, and I have a wider seat, so things do help that way.
That's good.
So I got back on really quick. Like I didn't even finish eating. I did fill up my water bottles, thankfully. And about mile 36 is when I just had this. It was this tiniest hill, and I was struggling so much to get up it. And I just thought to myself, I can't do this. What were you thinking? Like, you can't finish this. I just had this huge just burst of emotion, bursted out in tears immediately, but I kept pedaling. I never stopped pedaling. And while all that was going on, I was just like, just keep going, just keep going. Oh, you're not good enough. Like all these things that my entire life I've dealt with were popping up. And I did. I kept going. I finally got to, what is it, 4 Mile Creek, whatever the creek where the big bike is. And I was really exhausted at this point. Like I was close to my limit, I thought, at this point. So I decided I was going to sit down. I had the ticket to go to Dory and get the food and the beer and all
Dory
that.
Park. That's what I was.
Yeah, well, there's a park right before that where everybody parks at.
Okay.
But yeah, I had that, and I knew if I go over there and I get this meal and this beer, it's a wrap. I am not.
Yeah.
So I sat down. I was probably there for a half hour. I ate a couple oranges, a couple bananas, and then like I stood up and I was like, oh, I need to get back on my bike like immediately because things are starting to set in and I'm not going to finish. So I got back on, and I don't know what mile that is. I think that is like 11, 12-ish miles from the finish. And this was the hardest, however many miles of my life I've ever ridden. So I got back on my bike. It was a struggle. The headwind was just constant all day. And there's one part on the Cap Trail where you go sideways. So for like however long that was, like I got a reprieve from headwind, and it was just a side wind, and I don't care, take me away. And then and then I got out there on the big open parts, and it was just absolutely brutal. I was in the lowest gear, highest gear. I still don't know that lingo.
I confuse them sometimes.
Yeah, I'm always like, well, how's 8 I don't know. Yeah. But I was just pedaling, and I was fluctuating between like 10 miles an hour and 2 miles an hour. Like every time a gust of wind, it would like take the life out of me. And then somebody met me. I had no clue they were going to meet me along the trail, and they were pacing with me. So that was really cool. And then got to the 7-Eleven. The famous 7-Eleven.
Yeah, good spot.
And I got off my bike and my legs did not work. Like
Did you fall over?
I did not fall over, but they just would not. I just couldn't move. I just had to stand there for like a good 2 minutes. And they it was a weird feel. It was such a strange feeling. It was like I had no quads, which is crazy. So Of course, I went into 7-Eleven. I got an ice cream sandwich, a Gatorade, sat down for a little bit, and luckily it's pretty much downhill from that point back into Richmond.
Definitely.
So I got back on my bike and pedaled. I thought I was going at a good clip. I was going really, really slow. Hit the hill coming down. It's the greatest feeling in the world.
So much better going down it than going up.
Yes. And ironically, that's why I started in Williamsburg instead of Richmond, because I didn't want to go up that hill first thing in the morning.
I get that.
Yeah, still had to go up the bridge coming out of Williamsburg, but by that time, my legs were working a little better. So I cruised in. A friend met me at the start-finish. Like, I actually went to the actual start-finish because where they had it, I was like, well, this ain't the end of the Cap Trail. It's by the flood wall. So I made sure I went all the way to the end of the Cap Trail, and she was there, met me, took a video of me. And, I didn't – it's funny, I didn't get as emotional as I thought I was. Like, thinking about it now makes me more emotional than I was at that moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get that because you've had time to process it and live with it, and also looking back on your life, up to that point and reflect on it even more, from like who you were then before that to the person you were, after, like during that experience, and, also the person who you become since then.
Yeah.
And, I think time gives space for like new perspectives on major life achievements like that. Like that's been my experience as well for like the big athletic things that I've done, starting off with like running a half marathon to running a full marathon, doing the Capitol Trail, like 50 miler, eventually doing a 60 miler, and then doing the Century. And when you were talking about like breaking down at like the halfway point of not knowing if you could do it, and like getting so emotional that you were crying and having to like hold that conversation with yourself that like you can do it and you're going to do it. Like I had that moment for me when I was at the halfway point of my first marathon, the only one I've actually completed. I definitely want to do another marathon, and I attempted another marathon in 2021, but I didn't finish because my knees were just bugging the shit out of me, and I was undertrained because I got sick like a couple months before the race. So I definitely want to do that again. But I've been focusing more on triathlon, and I eventually would like to do half Ironman and a full Ironman.
Oh, nice.
So I got to incorporate more of the running.
Yes.
As part of that.
That's awesome.
Thanks for watching Evolved Podcast. This episode is brought to you by our sponsors. Evolved Goods was founded on the ethos that this podcast was started on, pursuing personal growth with a positive mindset. Our clothing are a reflection of that. Our first line, the Standard, which launched earlier this year, is now available on our website, evolvedgoods.co. And we will be launching our second line this summer called Soak It Up. So follow us on Instagram at evolvedgoods.co and check out our website for more clothing drops coming soon. This podcast is also sponsored by True Nutrition. Use Evolved Podcast to get 5% off all True Nutrition supplements. I'm personally a fan of their soy isolate vegan protein powder, available in a variety of flavors and strengths from light to heavy. They also have non-vegan protein powders if that's not your thing. I recommend the cookies and cream flavor in heavy strength, and I add it to waffles, oatmeal, and protein shakes. They're delicious. Check out their wide range of supplements at affordable prices that are third-party tested and verified for content quality. They are able to provide such great prices because their supplements come direct from the manufacturer without any marketing gimmicks or fancy labels. Visit truenutrition.com to supplement your workouts and nutrition. Use code EvolvedPodcast to get 10% off all weight train and Athleticity gym gear and apparel. No matter what you need for your workouts, they have the gear to help you get it done. They have great clothes for the gym wear, for men and women. Visit weighttrain.com for all your gym gear needs. Last is not dead yet. Use code EvolvedPodcast to get 15% off all clothing and accessories. The goat shorts and shirts are some of the most comfortable clothing I've ever worn, and they have the coolest designs. However, their drops are only available in limited quantities, so get your favorites while you can, and be on the lookout for other drops you're stoked on. Visit notdeadyet.com for clothing to remind the world you are not dead yet. Now, back to the show. Let's talk more about your weight loss journey.
At my heaviest that I know of, I was 670.
Okay.
That I know of.
And how old were you at that point?
30-ish.
Okay.
30-ish. Yeah. And I'd been at this number a couple times. Mm-hmm. I was always a big kid. Learned it from my parents. Yeah. As most overweight children do. Mm-hmm. Many diets. I can't tell you how many times I lost and gained 100 pounds. It's ridiculous the amount of times. But yeah, I think that it was around 2015 when, like, the last time I was 670. I got really into yoga. Went viral for a yoga pose I did. Mm-hmm. I was in, like, the local newspaper, like, people online. I was on a TV, like, national TV show. It was insane and way too much for me at the time to deal with.
Can you give me, like, the background story on that?
Yeah, so I'd been doing yoga, for definitely a few months. And at this point, I was going at least 3 times a week.
Where would you practice?
Healthy Life Yoga. It's in Midlothian. I had a friend that I was an EMT, She was an EMT, and I knew she had gotten into yoga, so I said, hey, do you got anybody? I need some lessons, and private lessons, because I'm not going into a yoga studio at 600 and something pounds. That was my belief at the time, that I wasn't welcome. And she hooked me up with this teacher, and we started practicing, and it just became like so amazing to see what my body could do. I kind of knew how athletic I am. Like, to this day, I think if weight wasn't an issue, I would probably be like a professional baseball something, professional something, not basketball.
Did you play sports when you were young?
I did. I played baseball for pretty much my entire youth. Gave football a try. Didn't like that. I don't like the violence of football. Was really good at baseball. It was so funny because thinking about it now, like a few weeks ago, actually, I never knew this. When I was, 8 or 9, the coach said he had never seen a kid my size as athletic as I was, and that I was more athletic than most of the kids on the team. So I think I was blessed with an athletic gene, and it's just so funny that came up a few weeks ago. I was like, why didn't you tell me? The whole course of my life could have been changed.
Yeah, right.
But it is what it is.
What position did you play in baseball?
Oh my God, all the slow ones: first base, third base, pitcher, catcher. That was it. Nice. They put me in a shortstop one time and realized really quick, like, no, we need to shift them over. Speed wasn't my thing. But I was good. If the ball was hit to me, I was stopping it. That's not a problem. I'm making a play. But back to the yoga thing. So it was April Fool's Day, matter of fact, 2015. At the time, I had like a Facebook page. There's a whole lot leading up to this. Yeah. I was into raw veganism. Got a little bit of a following for being a raw vegan. Was in like this raw vegan documentary. Was
that part of like one of the diets that you did?
1,000%. Yeah. This is in 2012 when I went to this thing called the Woodstock Fruit Festival, which I'm pretty sure is still going on. And if you're a vegan, and you can afford it, it is one of the most magical places I've ever been in my life. 1,000%. I'll go on tangent. I'll take turns, man. I'll take turns. Yeah. So I posted this photo, and I don't know how many followers I had. I never really pay attention to that because I don't care. But this photo went viral, and it was, I don't know the yoga name of it, and I think it's called a half star, I think. Basically, you stand on one leg and you go sideways.
Okay, yeah.
And my yoga teacher took a picture of me doing it. And she sent me the picture, and of course I immediately had something negative to say. So I saw that, and all I saw was how disgusting my body looked. But she wrote back and said, look at your alignment. Look at how amazing this is. And I was like, wow, I didn't even pay attention to that. Perfect alignment. And so I posted it, and next thing you know, it had 70,000 shares. It just went absolutely crazy. I was offered a reality TV show.
What?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. You turned it down?
I did. I turned it down. Matter of fact, it was the lady, the heavyset. I don't even know if this is still on because I don't watch cable anymore. Heavyset lady who danced. Oh. She was a dancer. That was the alternative to. I said no, and then that was the next.
I get where you're going with this.
Yeah, was the next offer. It was a lot. It was just all that from going to somebody me. My entire life never thought I was good enough for anything.
Sure.
So many issues, and then all of a sudden there's this influx of oh, you're amazing, you're great, and I didn't know what to do with it. Right. I couldn't handle it. I shut it down. I shut everything. I quit going to yoga. There was another reason on top of that, that I stopped. Fell in love with my yoga teacher. was not a good look. It was not a good. I mean,
complicated.
Yeah, it definitely did, and you know, I have this like save me complex that I've been working on for, and she at the time was saving me. Totally unavailable though. Totally unavailable. Didn't matter to me. And I still remember the day that I told her I loved her, and she said, "Hey, dude, I sat in the yoga studio and cried for like 3 hours. It was amazing. It was amazing." And at the time, I hadn't been that heartbroken in a very, very long time. But I look back on it now, and it's like one of the most amazing things that happened to me, because in that moment, how things went down, I stood up for myself. I stood in my power. And I hadn't really done that much in my life. And I just look back on that moment, even now. I mean, I'm still friends with her. Like, there was definitely a period where, like, fuck that bitch, to be honest with you. Like, there was that.
Sure.
And then, you know, one day I was just like, why am I holding on to this so much? Like, I need to let this go. Because she's truly a great person.
You were holding on resentment towards her, or like a grudge towards her?
For sure.
You found it within yourself to like forgive her, or like, you know, make amends with her?
I wouldn't say that it's fully, because there is still one aspect that has never been addressed.
Okay.
And it probably will never ever be. And does it bother me a little bit? Yes. Sure. Does it bother me a lot? No. Like right now I'm like, you know, I still haven't let go of that part. Gotcha. But everything else is great. I mean, we don't talk often, like we just chat through social media. She's a great person. And you know, I do wish her the very best. Always, I wish every person the very best. Even though if I hate you for a little while, I'll eventually come around to like, all right, I do wish them the best. So I cut everything off. Once that happened, like, no more yoga. I have this love-hate relationship with spirituality as well. Right. I tend to put spirituality on a pedestal, and once that something happens, and whoever it is that's in that position that I put on the pedestal gets knocked off, I hate it. I hate all spirituality. And it's also, and it's weird because just recently, like, I go to therapy every other week. Yeah. Great therapist. I've been in therapy for 6 years. And this came up with my photography, about charging for photography. And it feels weird to me. And
how so?
Oh man, let me unwrap this.
Yeah. Because a lot of people relate to this, myself included.
So it's a thing that I do it because I love it.
Right.
And when money comes into play, that changes things. And I don't want that to change for me. However, bills have to be paid.
Right. And
I think like I came from spirituality the same way. Like, spirituality should not cost money. Like, and I'll be honest with you, I see some of these things out here, like, it's ridiculous amount that people have to spend on their spirituality. Sure. Anyway, so like just the money aspect is really weird, and I think finding the value of my photography, and I kind of started looking at it very recently in a different way. And again, this like goes back to the very beginning of what's your style of photography. I don't want perfect moments. I don't want pose. I don't want these things. I just want you to be you. And I think that's what I can bring to the table as a photographer is, even if my pictures aren't award-winning quality level, which I think my pictures are pretty damn good, I bring a certain energy to the situation. And I think that is where my value lies, period. Whether it's on a bike, behind a camera, wherever. I think that's where my value lies. And it's taken me a long time to actually see that like it's not just a product. It's the whole interaction. It's the exchanging of energies, like spirituality is to me. It's a energy exchange, which you can't put a price on energy exchange.
Sure.
So that's like, I'm just trying to figure all that out, and I've got a couple paying gigs lately, so that works. But like, I do all my photos like at the Bryant Park Crit. I did Mountain Cat. Like, I just do everything by donation. And right now that just feels right to me. Like, I look at other cycling photographers and they're charging, between $10 and $35 for a photo. That just blows my mind for one, because I like, is that worth that? Like, to some people, I guess it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'll ever. I'll never say never. So maybe one day I'll charge that much for a photo. But yeah, the whole photography thing becomes very weird as well. I've started watching some marketing stuff too about portraits and charging for a session fee, and then you get them in and then you start charging by the photo, and I'm just like, it just feels dirty. Like, it just feels dirty to me.
Have you always felt that way about like money exchanges?
1,000%. Yeah. I am terrible with money. I live very, very minimal. I have enough money to get by. If something unfortunately bad happened, I'm kind of screwed. I do have a tent, so there's always that.
Always good to have a backup plan.
Yeah, but money is just this weird thing to me. Yeah. I don't like it. It's just, I would much rather barter.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, money is in itself an exchange of energy in its purest form, right? And, it is a tool that can be used, to make something more or less desirable, for an exchange of like goods or services. Obviously, we live in a capitalist society, so a lot of value is placed upon money, and people want to be compensated for their services and for the goods that they provide, which they should be.
Yeah.
If that's what they're looking for, people should be compensated fairly and justifiably for their work.
But what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's like the part where it comes in. It's like, well, what does compensation look like?
Right. You can be compensated in different ways too.
Yeah. Well, even it's just something about money. How money has become, I think, such a focus of American culture. Like, if you don't have the bling, like if you don't have the house with a picket fence and the 2.5 kids and a dog and like 3 cars in a summer, like, you failed at life somehow.
Right.
And you haven't. But at the same time, like you said, we live in a capitalistic society, and unfortunately, the prices of things are just getting higher and higher and higher.
Right. And photos and video are proliferated on Instagram and other social media platforms for free, and content creators are consistently being encouraged to like put up paywalls for like exclusive subscriber content. Yeah. Which does make things interesting. Of course, it's a way for them to make money, but also a way for the platforms to make money and have people spend more time on their sites. But people are still putting high quality content out there for free. And that probably won't change. And that encourages some form of artistic expression. This podcast is available for free, and it's not going to be. We're not putting up any paywalls anytime soon. But I know, like, you posted some stuff on your Instagram, like around like Hinduism and like your involvement in that. So yeah. I'm curious if that like has any role in your views on money and like your simplistic, minimalistic life that you choose to live. No.
Totally simple answer for that. The Hinduism, which technically isn't the correct name to call it, but that's fine. That's the name that we call it. Stemmed from yoga. I was actually into that before yoga.
Oh, okay.
Cool. And again, hate-love relationship with that too, because once you start digging,
I know there's some
bad stuff, like, including like, ISKCON. I really got into ISKCON earlier.
I don't know what
this
that
year.
is.
Hare Krishnas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now everybody knows when you say that. They're like, oh yeah, those people. Yeah. And I really, really started drinking the Kool-Aid. I dove in really deep, and I was like, the leader is my guru. He is my guru, and whatever he says must be the way. Mm-hmm. And I found myself talking to my therapist one day about abortion. I've always been, hey, your body, your choice, until this moment. And after that conversation, I went home and I thought about what I said. And that was not me. I just was like, whoa, this is kind of strange. And there was some stuff about women as well, how women are treated. And I think that was the turning point when I was like, I mean, women should be treated equal, like not sub.
Yeah.
So I totally broke away from that, which, I was having a really good time. I love the Maha Mantra. That's the big Hare Krishna chant that everybody said. You know it? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I've done it before.
Okay, cool. For some reason, that mantra sits with me really hard. In hard times, I chant it and I feel better. It just comes natural. I don't know. Well, it is what it is. Whatever happened in that transmission, there is a reason why that mantra is powerful to me. I just don't know why.
And it is a powerful mantra. It's very meditative. It does have meaning behind it that sort of transcends the human experience, I think.
Yeah.
I was never Hare Krishna, but I was raised Catholic, and then I disassociated from the Catholic Church. I questioned whether I believed in God, and then I found religion again through non-denominational Christianity, and then eventually joined a Presbyterian church. And basically, after like the pandemic happened, I stopped going to church for a while, and I was like listening more to like podcasts and different spiritual perspectives, and really came to the conclusion that I can't, with full faith and confidence, like call myself a Christian anymore, because I don't believe that Jesus Christ is the only way to God. Right. And I still think there is some sort of higher power in the universe, but I don't necessarily think of it in the way like the Christian religions do. And I think that maybe I'm more agnostic now, but maybe with some like Buddhist tendencies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's wonderful. Like there's, Yogaville is right up the street in Buckingham.
Right.
And there's controversy there because everywhere there's a leader is controversy.
Right.
But his whole thing were, I forgot the saying, many paths, but they all lead to the same place. Mm-hmm. So he has a temple there, and around the temple is all the religions, all the major religions, not all of them, and they all have a light coming out of them going up into the roof into one. Mm. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's so many paths to the one. And whatever that one you believe is, like, luckily I was raised non-religious at all. I'll be honest with you, I don't know to this day whether my dad believes in God or not. I know my mom does. Mm-hmm. My grandmother started a church in her backyard, and I did go to church up until third grade, and then they finally let me stop doing that. So I was blessed with that, because, man, talking about being Catholic, I know many friends have Catholic guilt that is
it's a real thing.
Is very deep. But yeah, I think the Hinduism, I think it sticks with me more because there's so much room for whatever you believe. There's a God for that. Mm-hmm. Like they have so many gods in that religion. It's amazing. And, I've gotten back into kirtan lately, which is the chanting, singing of the names. I went to one in Charlottesville this weekend, and I just love it, chanting so much and being in that energy. And I had a moment at the end of it. We were doing a chant, and this like peace washed over me that I haven't felt in quite a long time. And I ended up going on a little drive afterwards, and I just found myself just smiling, happy, content. A negative emotion would come, and it would just immediately wash away. So you're catching me in a very, very, very thoughtful, deep, like over the last week and a half or so, it's something inside of me it feels like it's shifting. I had a really great talk with a friend this morning about some Schumann's resonance or something. I have to look into this, but apparently there's a lot going on, and I don't know if I believe in all this stuff like the stars and the planets, and I don't blame anything on Mercury retrograde. But I do believe in vibration. I do believe that vibrations can either take you up or take you down. So I've been looking into this pretty much all day today, and it's in a pretty amazing thing that I found out so far. So I'll be looking into that more. But again, I'm going off on another tangent here.
Can you share something that you learned today about vibrations?
When I got into yoga is when I really started believing in vibrations, because I've never truly believed a white dude up in the sky waiting for me to come home. Never was into that. There was always something there, though. Even when I say I don't believe in God, like, it just means I don't believe in that. I do believe in something. I truly believe that everything is just vibration. At the very basis of life is vibration. My belief. Not a scientist. Don't read a lot of research. That just feels good to me. But apparently right now there's like, with this Schumann's resonance, of course I'm probably butchering it, but there's a very unique pattern going on. And my friend said she's been looking at this since 2019 and has never seen patterns like this, like geometric shapes within the resonance. And we were having a conversation about how this week is gone and like how I've been feeling, and then it lined up perfectly with where this thing started and like how, like just my mood. I'm really hard to believe in these things, but there's only so many times that something can happen. Sure. It's no longer coincidence. Like my favorite number is 18. Right after I have this conversation with her, I put on this podcast, and the guy was like, yeah, I went for like, right out of his mouth was like, yeah, I went on an 18-mile cycling ride. And I was just like, what? And then he just kept saying things on the podcast. I was like, wait, I can't listen to this right now. Mm-hmm. This is blowing my mind. So, yeah. So then I went and got a massage because I needed to like get out of my mind for a little bit.
So, looking towards wrapping up, I want to talk about some recurring topics on the show. Do you have a morning routine that you try and practice on a daily basis or somewhat daily basis?
I wake up.
Yeah, that's a
I do. I wake up and I have a coffee pretty much immediately, which I think I'm going to try to stop in the near future. Not stop drinking coffee, just not have it when I first wake up, because I think my body needs a little bit of time to like move around. Yeah, not really. Like I'll just wake up and kind of hang out and kind of think about what I'm going to do on the day. If there's anything going on, and kind of plan my day a little bit. That's pretty much it, and then just start going.
Yeah. What are some of your self-care practices that you do other than yoga?
Photography is a huge self-care thing. Because I feel really valued when I do that. Yeah. Going on rides in my car has become a very big thing for me. When things start to get really heavy, I just go on a ride. I mean, last Sunday, I went on a 7.5 hour drive just because I just needed to like break. Also, speaking of that, I've been told I'm an empath. I do believe somewhat of that. Again, this is one of those things where I'm like, I don't know, maybe. But when I feel energy, too much energy, I have to get away and I have to shut down. That is a huge self-care thing for me, is to take a step back. And it happens a lot more lately, where I'm around a lot of people. And I just like, all right, I can't.
What do you do when you need to take that time?
Usually I go sit in silence. I'll sit in silence, or depending on my mood, I'll go for a drive, put on some music, kind of reroute the thoughts. But most of the time it's sitting. I've found myself over the last month sitting in silence way more often than I used to.
When you say sitting in silence, are you meditating, or are you doing like just breath work, anything?
Nothing. Turn the phone off, cut the TV off, and I just sit there and I'll look out the window. I have like bird nests right outside my window, so they're always flying. I mean, my mom calls me the bird whisperer because I don't know where all these birds have came from recently. But I just sit there and I observe. And I think that's another thing that, like, as I've gotten older in life, I've become a better observer. I don't like talking as much anymore. This is very uncomfortable for me, for real. Yeah, but it's just a weird thing. I don't like talking like I used to. I like to feel my words are more valuable than, hey, how are you today? Yeah.
Well, you've been saying some very valuable words here today, so I appreciate it.
I feel like I've been all over the place, so there might be a part 2.
Maybe. What are some of your favorite ways of fueling your body? And like, how has that changed, over the span of your life? Like what nutrition are you following now? Are you on a specific meal plan, or?
Well, first of all, I'm a food addict.
Yeah.
Obvious from my weight. You're not this weight and not addicted to food. It's no different than any drug addiction. People aren't going to like that I say this, but I think food addiction is the hardest addiction, because
I agree with you.
You have to eat. You have to eat. You have to put something in your body.
Yeah.
It's been a roller coaster of what I'm doing. Right now, 2 weeks ago at my therapy session, she said something. She said, if you're not doing it, you're choosing it. Like, if you're not doing a better way, then you're choosing the way you're going. I was eating a lot of candy, a lot of sugar. And I ain't talking about fruit, because we all know that ain't the same.
Right.
Well, some of us know it's not the same.
Right.
So I decided that day I was not going to eat any sugar. Now, since then, I've had a coffee and I accidentally got sugar in it, and I drank it, and I was like, it's not the end of the world. Sunday night, I was at my friend's having dinner. I ate a cookie inadvertently. Like, I didn't even think about it. And then afterwards, I was like, oh man, I just ate sugar. Oh God, the end is near.
Right.
Like,
you're not going on benders eating all the sugar, but if you eat it from time to time, it's not gonna ruin your day. And you can get back on track.
I do have to be way more aware,
because
it will do that for me. When I stop, my body feels better, and my mind feels better.
I bet.
And it just makes so much sense. I cut that dopamine hit out of my life. So at the moment, that's all I'm doing. No bad sugars. I always end up going back into vegetarian veganism.
Sweet.
There's just something about that feels very right to me.
Yeah.
It's just the emotion, the addiction is when, no, you do. It's just the addiction gets me sometimes, and I revert to old habits. And,
yeah. And I have a big sweet tooth as well. I've tried cutting out sugar and reducing my sugar, but I'm addicted to eaing ice cream. I'm not going to lie about that, And
I know. I see your Instagram.
Sometimes I do too much. I know. Like maybe 2 ice creams or 3 ice creams in a day is pushing it, but here we are.
Yeah.
I make up for it with how active I am, and that's how I justify those things. But, I definitely want to be better about that. So I hear you. I want to go into a couple recurring segments on the podcast, starting with PMA Warrior of the Week. Who is someone who inspires you to maintain a positive mindset?
My therapist.
Yeah.
She means so much to me, as a very important person in my life. And again, the save me complex. I've been there with her, done that, fell in love with her.
Really?
Fell in love with her, told her about it, and we had an adult conversation that was very new to me because I didn't run. She's an amazing mother, like an amazing yoga teacher, amazing therapist. Like she is just a badass human. She is amazing, and she has kept me she's kept me alive, basically. We have conversations often where I'm like, man, I feel like I'm wasting my time. Like I feel like I'm wasting her time, like being in here, because 6 years, like what has truly changed in me? There's been many changes. There's just this one thing that I just can't seem to get over, and that's the addiction. So she means the world to me. But I mean, I have a really best friend as well, so I would say him as well. He's built a little different. He's like, let's fix it, let's get it done. Let's not think about let's just do it. Just do it. So it's like the yin and yang of my life with those two. But
Is that what the symbol on your hand represents?
Yeah, yin and yang, and then I have the infinity symbol. So I actually got these when I was doing yoga, because a lot of poses I would have my hands down, and these would be my drishti points, my focus points. And they are both things that I do truly believe in. Yeah.
Why do you have the infinity symbol? Like, what does that represent to you?
You can't destroy energy. I believe that is a scientific fact. Of course, we all know science is just what it is until it's proven otherwise. But I do not believe there is ever a true end, as people believe. I think it's just the wheels in the bus go round and round. And even with life, like, we leave these bodies, but there's something else there that never leaves. Maybe we come back as another body. I don't know. Maybe we go to some other planet. Who really knows? I don't know. I don't think anybody truly knows, because I don't know anybody that's been there and came back. But yeah, I think affinity, is just it's a never ending. It's just never ending.
What is a quote or phrase that is helpful for you to maintain a positive mindset in difficult situations?
So one I've latched onto recently is just for today. I have an issue with getting overwhelmed about looking too far in the future. So just for today, I'm going to whatever, and that'll be my mantra for the day when things start to, like, just for today. It started just for today. Just for the rest of the day, I'm not going to eat sugar. I've said that many times in the last couple weeks, like, just for today, just for today. But I always find, like, when I'm able to pull back and just become more in the moment and just pay more attention to the moment, that thing, all the other stuff doesn't matter. Like, it truly doesn't matter. So yeah, just for today.
Just for today. That's so good.
Trademark.
Before I let you leave, I have to ask you, your Instagram name is City Made It.
For now.
For now,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
It's subject to change.
Yeah.
But Is City a nickname that someone else gave you?
It is. So my best friend, Chris, the other yin yang person, when we were playing basketball at Robius Sports and Fitness one day, and there was this basketball player named Big Country. So I hit him with a forearm, and he said, "Damn, Big City."
And it stuck.
And I went away for that name for a really long time because I didn't like what it represented. Call me Richard. That's my name. But I don't know, something just came back about City, and just take the big away, just City. It feels good. I actually like it now when people call me City. So yeah, that's where it came from.
That's cool. So yeah, I definitely see both sides to that. Like, it could have a negative connotation, but you turned it into a positive.
Yeah.
And you've used that to empower yourself, and I think that's really, really special. Like,
yeah, I mean, and it's so cool to have a nickname. I mean, come on.
Of course. Well, thank you very much, Richard. Again,
Absolutely.
It was great to have you here. If people want to follow along with you on your journey or potentially work with you as a photographer, I guess Instagram would be the best place to do that.
Yeah, that would be pretty much, at City Made It on Instagram. I guess you could email me at richard@citymadeit.com as well, if people still do those things. But yeah, Instagram would be the easiest way right now. Yeah, working on the website, so that'll be in the future.
Cool. Well, thanks again, man.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching Evolved Podcast. Follow at evolvedpodcast.co on Instagram for weekly updates. Subscribe to Evolved Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and like your favorite episodes. Production and editing by Joe Fitzpatrick. Our theme music, Endless Cruise, is written and performed by Fingers, spelled F1NG3RS.